H.P. Lovecraft, our favorite xenophobic racist author who gave us everything from Great Cthulhu to everyone's favorite waifu, Nyarlathotep, I think that's how it's pronounced, has one of the biggest influences when it comes to horror fiction, and the video game scene is no stranger to many of his related works. Too many, in fact, which is a good thing, because most of those have been made memorable thanks to their Eldritch-inspired imaginations from a variety of different developers. Some even better than the games that directly tie into the source material. But while I'm sure there have been arguments, discussions, backyard Migo cockfights about which Lovecraft or Lovecraft-inspired game is best, a particular diamond in the rough, which is now 20 years old, accumulating student debt, and blaming its parents for abandonment, is Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth. One of only 2 games that ever got released by the Went to Go Get Milk developer Headfirst Productions, also produced by Bethesda, Dark Corners of the Earth was one of the earliest 3D games that actually took place in the Lovecraftian universe, retelling stories like The Shadow over Innsmouth and The Shadow Out of Time, making them come to life in a first-person horror adventure that tests both your sanity and patience. A fun adventure that was made memorable for its atmosphere, Lovecraftian story, as well as being a buggy-ass mess of a game that some people couldn't even finish back on release, me included. But I finally made the 2 GB journey and decided to finish it on its 20th anniversary. So, did this game hold up? Or is it now simply a shadow out of time?
You're going to die. Iä Cthulhu.
Set in the fictional era of the Lovecraftian mythos, literally the East Coast, because those are the areas that the Elder Gods love to plague apparently, Jack Walters is a police detective who has been summoned to a house raid which has been inhabited by the local mad lads who are praying to some other worldly gods. Trying to Sam Fisher his way in while getting the speedrun record for dead cultists met in a single day.
Don't shoot. I'm unarmed.
Ah, we've been expecting you, Mr. Walters.
Counter-terrorists win.
Jack uncovers a dark truth underneath the manor, which tests his sanity and how strong your stomach is.
Oh, shit. I'm not touching it again.
A meeting with an extraterrestrial being ends up in having 6 years of Jack's life taken away from him with no recollection of this schizophrenia, split personality period ever occurring. In trying to pick up his life, Jack now works as a private eye, and a newfound case makes everything take a turn for the worst, as the investigation leads him to the town of Innsmouth. From there, Jack undergoes an adventure to discover the sinister secrets that reside over the town and beyond, mostly underneath and sometimes to the side.
You didn't see anything.
Dark Corners of the Earth is essentially a retelling of Lovecraft's short stories, more specifically The Shadow over Innsmouth, and actually borrows heavily from the original material. Things like the outside investigator meddling in Innsmouth affairs, the esoteric order of Dagon, the involvement of the Marsh family, the inclusion of a Shuggoth, even down to Jack actually staying the night at a hotel, just like the protagonist in the short story. Also, being a private investigator is for some reason the universal requirement in every Lovecraft video game. Just one more thing. I think part of the appeal, and what makes it great to sit through today, is in fact the game being an actual adaptation of The Shadow over Innsmouth. It's just one of those things where it's cool to see the story come to life in the developer's own reimagining. Jack is a pretty interesting investigator, not because I think his character is well written or anything. In fact, he's pretty one note as far as just being a curious investigator who's kind of okay with getting pushed around.
Not a chance. I already told you, there's something down there. I barely got out alive.
I made it clear back at the asylum, Mr. Walters. I don't make requests.
Okay, but I'll be needing another gun.
But more in the way he tries to maintain his sanity over the course of the game. From surviving the town of Innsmouth, getting to say hi to Father Dagon, even getting to go to the Deep One city of Ugly Atlantis. A very intriguing psychological journey to see how Jack responds to the eldritch events that unfold, and not all of them are pleasant. In fact, one of my favorite parts is how Jack handles a child's death. Spoilers for a minor character, so please be advised. When Jack inadvertently gets Ramona killed by accidentally releasing a deep one, his guilt actually extends to the later parts of his journey, and not just in that instance. Though he doesn't show it emotionally through dialogue, using his failing psyche as a means to show trauma is a cool piece of storytelling that I enjoyed in an older title such as this. I think James Sunderland would agree. It does lose some points for originality, because if you are familiar with the short stories like Dagon, The Shadow Out of Time, and even elements of the original Call of Cthulhu, you'll see a lot of overlapping themes. Other things that I still do like about the story is the setting. Innsmouth is a very shady yet intriguing town, and its inhabitants creep me the fuck out, but also kind of make me laugh with their interesting voices.
Do you know the Burnham lad? He worked in the First National.
Dan Riley says I know him.
Could you direct me to the First National grocery store? I hear they have a shop in town.
I don't know nothing about that.
Evening, Constable.
Constantly, I'm busy. No time for stalking strangers.
Welcome to Innsmouth.
As someone who does enjoy a good Eldritch mystery, Dark Corners of the Earth does scratch that Lovecraftian itch, and I was more than happy to take a tour of its famous landmarks and entities. For everyone else, I'd say it's still a compelling mystery that'll provide a good amount of intrigue as you try to see Jack's story from start to finish. Not completely perfect though, and I will direct a lot of my criticisms towards the character writing and pacing. The NPCs are alright, but a little forgetful as all they really do is add some basic personality to the story.
Just pleasantries. Seemed a nice enough fella, if a little rough around the edges.
What? No, that's not true. They'll have him killed. It was all my idea. I just wanted a clean break from here.
The setting is far more intriguing than any one given character, save for maybe Jack himself.
Oh, the liquor's been destroyed. Pity.
With the pacing, it basically feels like Jack is simply jumping from one story arc to another without any coherent or meaningful transitions. In a single 10-minute instance, he's trying to escape Innsmouth, gets tortured by the FBI, and suddenly ends up working for them to raid the Marsh refinery. From being an escapee to federal temp is quite a fast character arc that not even Dragon Ball could catch up to. But for all of its incongruent design, Dark Corners of the Earth still has a mysterious psychological story that will satisfy fans who are in need of a good Lovecraftian scratch, and may even intrigue the uninitiated to become one.
A pistol and a shotgun, at last.
Headfirst Productions took the approach of what most FPS games did in that era, with a let's combine as many first-person elements as we can to make our action horror title, but is about as deep as a puddle of water. Dark Corners of the Earth is an FPS adventure that has 3 specific elements: adventuring, shooting, and stealth. More or less every FPS-style RPG game a la Deus Ex or System Shock without the actual role-playing elements. For the first part, the adventuring, Jack essentially runs through a linear world trying to determine the purpose of various objects and keys, because you'll probably be spamming the use button to see what he has to say.
These books are really old, and most of them are in strange languages I don't understand. I don't have time to read. I'm a detective, not a pen pusher.
As well as interacting with a number of people who aren't trying to shoot you dead. Literally everyone that doesn't look remotely like Undyne's distant inbred relatives. I'd say fairly interactive, especially for a linear game like Dark Corners, but it was pleasant to find an adventure game where the narrator has at least something to say about almost everything he comes across. Holds up a bit better for me actually, because you don't normally see other narrators outside of an RPG game that makes these level of descriptions. The puzzles are pretty good, and a lot were actually fun to solve, especially those containing symbols and notes that you have to decipher. Some are just a little bit too esoteric though, either because they're extremely vague or not well designed. Sometimes a bit of both. For the shooting, it's decently fun when you have to blah 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 the various fishmen and monsters that are trying to kill you, but very basic feeling and nothing too substantial to merit it as a must-play shooter. Kinda thematic for Jack, since he isn't Doom Guy or Master Chief, though he can hold as many guns as Gordon Freeman, funny enough. I do like that Dark Corners doesn't have a HUD, and the game feels more immersive as a result, despite the FOV that'll make you hurl in a couple of places. Oh god, me haggers! Also, you can reload anytime you want, regardless of whether you have a full clip or not, and it feels weird. Lastly, the sneaking. Well, it's there, but fairly rudimentary when used. You'll need it to survive specific encounters, and failing them often results in death. The times where it's optional, I just switch straight to combat because Jack in stealth is slower than a newborn baby. It was far more effective to shoot the fishmen, or melee them in a room Hitman style.
Scratch. Stop mocking me.
Well done, 47.
A very all-encompassing, trying to make the gameplay varied in order for the game to feel more adventurous, but executed in a way that's basic without anything too special. It does feel adequate enough for the scope it's trying to achieve, but could honestly have benefited from a bit more refinement to make it play even better. Other things of note that were still interesting include the sorry, my computer crashed while trying to type the script, include the health system. Injuries sustained are localized based on where you got hit, and you have to apply specific medications to the affected area, like a bandage for minor scars or sutures for deep cuts. Broken leg? Just put a splint on it and it's like nothing ever happened. Even your clothes are back. Extremely easy to use, and there's even an auto heal system where the game will just do it for you. But I kinda dig it, since getting hurt in certain areas would affect gameplay, like arm or head injuries affecting your aim, and leg injuries affecting your movement. Other notables include the boss fights. Our one and only Father Dagon was fun, and trying to take him on while staying afloat makes for a very harrowing experience as you try to 1v1 a deep one. Felt a bit like Ahab and Moby Dick.
Fhtagn.
Mother Hydra was interesting too, but I honestly had to look up a guide because her order of operations were more cryptic than a Silent Hill puzzle. Oh, and of course, being that this is a Lovecraftian game, sanity is a time-honored mechanic. While very thematic that the disturbing events would affect the sanity of Jack, it's a little too much when the visual gimmick makes the screen shake and blur. I would not fault you if this makes you It's not great if I'm being honest, and the Dark Descent had a better FPS visual implementation, one that at least didn't make you hurl. I get that Jack also has a fear of heights / falling, but do they have to make it visually obstructive when he's trying to climb down a rope? And that's all there really is to it for gameplay. It's not amazing enough that it makes it a must-play, but at least it's not bad enough that it drags down the whole game. Very run-of-the-mill with trying to give the player some mixed gameplay elements in an FPS adventure.
Iä Cthulhu. Iä Hydra.
For an Xbox / PC title out of 2005 and I guess 2006 if we're being technical, Dark Corners is obviously old as shit, but there's still some really good ambience that lingers in this game. Assets are old, yes, and there's no denying the way the textures, models, and backgrounds look like you're viewing a game through the eyes of a 480p individual. But atmosphere is still the game's best aspect. Technically, its lighting and shader system isn't the most dynamic, but good enough that the game's atmosphere is indeed a mood setter. From your time in Innsmouth all the way to Iä Cthulhu, the darkness and grim feeling of the world remind you that you are playing a Lovecraftian horror game, especially the psychological visions. Very impactful when needed. Sound is alright, decent enough that the world feels alive, but a bit meh, cause sometimes it's just the bare minimum. The better standouts are the musical stingers whenever something horrible is going on, either during flashbacks or certain scenes.
Holy shit!
But my favorite does have to go to the save spots, because it's always very dramatic to save. As for the soundtrack, it is decent for when the mood calls for it.
I don't understand. I'm in all of these photos. All of them. There must be some kind of mistake. Why would they want me here? It must be an old case. Something I've forgotten. It won't open.
Same with the voice cast, and as I mentioned earlier with the characters, the personalities meet the bare minimum when it comes to bringing the cast to life. My only favorites are Jack and Zadok Allen.
Now you be calling me crazy. Like them that's thar rumoring in Ankrum and Ipswich. But old Zadok's seen all manner of wicked things since before you was born.
Now for the most defining feature in Dark Corners of the Earth, the bugs. The first big hurdle that I had to fix was getting this game to run. You have to cap it at 60 frames per second, and you'll have to force VSync through your GPU settings because the game doesn't have that option built in, and if you don't, you'll never be able to progress past the basement. Also, you may need to turn off whatever adaptive sync technology you have so that the game doesn't start to PowerPoint. The second issue was an invisible wall that kept me from getting on a factory lift. For this, I could not find a consistent fix, so my only solution was to pray to the Elder Gods and flail about randomly till I could break the barrier.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Oh, finally. Glad I'll never have to do that again. And the last major bug was a visual glitch that stopped me from killing a bunch of fish cultists during the ship level. Normally, you can shoot the chanting bastards, but there's a weird skyline issue that prevents you from seeing them. So, thanks to an asset fix I downloaded online, I was able to get them up and running and realized that the sky is not actually a white fog. And thankfully, that was the end of it. While they were easy fixes for the most part, they're still terrible to have to go through, and this game is very much known for being difficult to get running. In fact, it was the blue light cultist bug that actually stopped me from beating this game years ago because I did not know what to do. While there are workarounds that are available online now, that's still no excuse for how much of a buggy mess the game is. A fairly decent presentation for an older title such as this, and I do like how the game's atmosphere still manages to keep the Lovecraftian psychological horror mood. Just be aware of the bedbugs.
I have finally glimpsed upon what lives in the dark corners of the earth.
So, Dark Corners of the Earth is an interesting game that has aged into the category of being pretty niche. If you want to eat your favorite gorgonzola cheese over rice, then you'll enjoy eating your favorite gorgonzola cheese over rice. It still has its moments, and I think for being a game that takes place in the Lovecraftian universe, Cthulhu worshippers will get to have their fix. The mysterious story and dark atmosphere make it a very unique adventure to go through, and I did get an extra kick out of it, having read the original short stories that the game is based on. It also scratches that psychological horror itch, even if you know nothing about Lovecraftian lore. But at the same time, are some of its basic features, not to mention the hoops and bugs you have to deal with, worth going through at all? Depends on you, honestly. I had fun with it, and it's easily one of my favorite games involving Lovecraft, but it's a shame that its basic aspects aren't better realized to deliver what could have been an even better game. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Thanks for sticking around. There will be more games to play and more videos coming soon, so please stay tuned if you'd like to see more. But for now, I'll see you all next time. And a happy Halloween.